like the way you approach things, the way I approach things is none of these are super standalone items. It's all just tools in a toolkit, right? I want you to have access to things. I make this stuff unless I needed it myself or had friends who needed it. And all these things, it's just another arrow in the quiver, another tool in the toolkit. I'm doing well.
Okay, good. Yay. Thanks for letting me babble about you for a couple minutes. I normally jump on earlier, so I was just like, give me 2 minutes so that I can brag about you to any new guests. So this sitting back here is a little bit far, so I'm just going to hold it up, every so often while we talk about it. Yay. And there's so many questions about combining the different products that you offer between Wizard Sciences and Biocharged, but let's kind of dive into this one first really quick. And anytime I've got my team on here for everyone in the audience, Elena's on here, I think Emily's on here. So if you have questions about the link, if you have questions on where to find it, drop it into the comments here and my team will be able to direct you and help support you that way. You can also just go to the pinned comment here and you'll be able to follow Ian, you'll be able to follow. And if you go to his account, you'll find Wizard Sciences, you'll find Biocharged, you'll find all the products that we're talking about in those links, and you'll also see them on my site and in my link in bio as well. So we have a shortcut link to all things Ian Mitchell. So here he is, and let's chat. Let's talk about, I gave a little intro to you. I don't want to cut in too much of my time talking about how awesome you are because we're doing it every episode. Let's maybe just dive straight into this and what this is. And then I would also love for us to just chat a little bit about gut health, why it's so important and first of all, what is this? Why did you develop it?
Okay. So originally we were looking at ways during the start of COVID, we were looking at ways to clean the environment. And a friend of mine owns a bunch of real estate. And we were looking at ways to detoxify actually daycares. And so we started looking at doing UV light, and then we started looking, because you can't quite get around all the corners there, we started looking at, well, what else can we do? So ozone came into the conversation.
Yeah.
And my friend Bobby said, hey, do you think we could actually make kind of like an ozone treatment that somebody could just ingest? And I've done autohemotherapy, which is where you go to a doctor, you have your blood pulled out, they mix it with ozone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great stuff. Yeah. And then you put blood back in, and it hyperoxygenates the blood, kills pathogens. Ozone is interesting. So ozone, just to kind of digress before the epigenesis of the whole thing, right? Everything around it that brought us together to do this. So what really happens here is you've got this unstable oxygen molecule, and so normal oxygen that you breathe is O2, and it's stable. This is O3, so there's one extra oxygen atom kicked off on the side, and it's highly unstable, and so it wants to balance its charge. And this is, you smell it, if you've ever kind of smelled that fresh scent after a lightning storm and a heavy rain, that's ozone, right? So the lightning cracks through the air, rips molecules apart, strips off the oxygen recombines to be O3, and then it goes around with the wind after the storm, and when it hits things in nature that are charged kind of inappropriately, it cleans it strips electrons, binds, and balances its charge out. But in the process, it's ripping things apart at a subatomic level, which is why nature uses it as its perfect cleanser, right? Because if you're ripping things away at a subatomic level, not much can withstand it. And so it's, in this configuration, when we came back to the idea of, well, could we give somebody a treatment that actually is like going to get autohemotherapy? At first, I didn't actually think it was possible, just because the amount that was actually going to be required to do it. So I started looking at other mechanisms for ozone delivery. And the first one that came up was, just kind of pulling blood. The second was doing bubbling it through water and then drinking the water. And then I saw this thing and I thought, ozonated oil, that's kind of interesting. So there are a couple of groups that do ozonated oil. But the guy who actually started this was Nikola Tesla. So I went back and I read Tesla's stuff, and he's kind of a fan fave in my house.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm sort of a Tesla fanboy because the guy was and I use this sparingly, but the guy was really brilliant. And so I looked at what he did. And nowadays, when people make ozonated oils, they take oil and they pump ozone through it, and it goes through this thing called a redox reaction, which stabilizes, because it starts out, in this case, this is sunflower oil, which is not the best thing to take. It's a polyunsaturated fatty acid.
Right.
But in the capacity that it exists in these little guys, after I process it, it's no longer a polyunsaturated fatty acid. You've actually broken everything down through this multi-pass redox reaction, and it becomes 1-nonanoyl, 9-oxynonanoic acid, nonanoic acid. So everything is stable, and they all have this little oxygen kicked off to the side. But the process takes about 2.5 weeks, give or take, right? And that's what we've been doing for 100 years, except Tesla. So I went back and I looked at what Tesla was doing, and I thought, okay, this guy's brilliant, and he took 8 weeks to do it. Why? So then I pulled up the records and I read how he'd done it, and he had these long beds where he would put the olive oil is what he used. He put olive oil in these long beds, and they were on top of magnetic coils, and they had oil going through them. And I thought, okay, this guy's brilliant. He's not going to take 3 times as long and waste a lot of money. What was he doing? And then it finally clicked in my head. He was using the fact that they're polar molecules, just meaning they have a pull, a charge, and lining them up based on the magnetic. I know, super brilliant. So he was getting everything to line up so that it would be the highest charge density. As the viscosity changed and it became more of a gel, the reaction would happen. It wouldn't be spent, because if you increase the heat and the molecules bump together, the oxygens will interact. And so you want to be able to keep everything single file, basically, and not spent, so that when you introduce it to, say, your intestines or the surface of the skin, like if you have a scratch, it goes through and it just knocks out all the pathogens on that. If you ingest it, it goes in and affects the pathogenic bacteria in your gut. Also upregulates your mitochondria. But he had figured that out. And so I was kind of dumbfounded, and I thought, damn, okay, that's really brilliant. But then I thought, it's been 100 years. What would he do if he had all the toys that I have, right? 100 years. So I started looking at how we could change the behavior and if we could amp up the signal. And that's why it actually says quantum charge, which is it's a little bit, most people talk about quantum behavior and it gets a little woo-woo. I know you've talked, and I think you've seen a video.
We talk quantum here. You know, this is my channel here. So we talk quantum, we talk woo, we talk science, we talk all the things here. So.
So, but that's the thing is, so what happens is I went back and I looked at the way the molecules were interacting, and I thought, okay, how can I get these things to have more charge than they would normally have? In terms of like, every molecule reacts a certain way because it has, the conventional thinking is that it reacts a certain way because it has molecular dynamics and molecular interaction. And that's true. But you can actually go to the substrate beneath that and modify things in terms of their actual energetics, the vibratory frequencies that you're using. And what I always tell people is the way to think about the molecule, everybody's been given kind of the basic idea of like the Bohr model, which is sort of a lie, but it's really good for kids to kind of grasp about how an atom functions. So you've got your nucleus, and you've got your electrons running around. Well, kind of the way to think about molecular interaction is to say, okay, the only energy in this whole thing is contained because of the electrons rolling around the outside. It's not really, right? It's like if you said in the solar system, the only energy in the entire solar system is because the planets are revolving around the sun. It's not true. There's a tremendous amount of confined angular momentum because of their rotation on their own axis. So I thought electrons are point particles, but they also exhibit spin. What if I could quantize the spin and lock the spin states? So then I started thinking about, and this gets a little bit weird, but I started thinking about, well, how do you do that? So I figured out a way to do that. And
how do you lock the spin state?
So, not to disclose too much, but basically you oscillate at high frequency, high voltage with plasma fields, and then you can get resonate in a certain way, and you can get them to lock in a function. Then, in order to keep it there, because what I noticed was you can do that, and it reacts for a little while, but then it just dissipates. So how do I lock this in? So what I did next was I was playing with a gel, right? So it's an oil that's been, changed in terms of viscosity. So I thought, okay, I'm using femtosecond pulse lasers, And if you've ever seen a holographic plate, you know, the little sheets of glass that have the image, 3D image. Mm-hmm. Well, what most people don't realize is a holographic plate that contains that image is actually a representation down to photonic scale. So it contains all of the information all the way down past the size of an electron, all the way down. And if you use a light and you shine it through, you'll just get the image. If you use a laser, you can recreate that entire thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
The other piece of the puzzle was glass, which we use to lock these things in, because every little fragment of that plate of glass, if you crack it, you can take and shine a laser through it, and it will recreate the entire image. Every component down to a molecule, because its interaction contains all of the information of the entire grouping. So my thought was, well, glass isn't a solid; it's an amorphous solid. So it appears to be solid to us, but if your time scale were super fast, a soap bubble running down between something would look like a solid, which is exactly what glass is. It's over time, gravity is going to affect it, and it's actually going to drop down, which is why if you go to super old cathedrals in Europe, you'll see the base of the glass looks a little thicker and it's kind of occluded. It's because... And so I thought, well, the gel that I'm playing with in the ozonated oil is actually closer to a piece of glass than it is to the pace of these lasers. So I set up this entire rig with dichroic beam splitters and lasers and plasma drivers and acoustic wave drivers to get all these states locked, and then fired the laser through it to trap that. So there's an incidence beam and a reference beam, and the scatter locks in the waveform. So effectively you make a hologram. And that's how you amp up the signal. So I amp up the signal and I lock it in to basically make a gelatinous hologram. And keeps the image longer. Now, I don't actually keep it permanently, but it keeps it many times longer.
Right.
And so basically you get two things. You get the signal amped up so that you can take this little bitty tiny capsule and get a huge result from it. So it's kind of like blitzkrieg, lightning warfare, have speakers and come in and make all the sound. Well, your body reacts the same way to mitohormesis, right? Mitochondria. And what you do is you drop this in, the little capsule goes in, and your body thinks that it's had this huge pro-oxidative insult. So it and it amps up its mitochondrial behavior, and it kicks out superoxidase and glutathione, and all endogenous antioxidant production ramps up really rapidly. And actually feel that express is you feel kind of a wave of heat, almost as if you had taken niacin. You get kind of that flush sort of thing. Because I was niacin in this because it would react instantly, but it's that same sort of a thing because your body kicks up its own production and your mitochondria kick in and you start heat load. And the uptick of that allows your body access to all this extra energy, and it gears up more. And so it starts addressing things, say, in your gut for the most part. This will actually knock out Candida albicans, Candida cruzae, Candida glabrata. It'll just eviscerate those because that's what it's designed to do. That's how nature uses it, and it's the same way that we're utilizing it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is amazing. So I know that all my nerdy science people out there that you're totally my fam too. That was incredible information that you guys all understood. And then for some of you guys who aren't, quite as nerdy, you're still part of my woo-woo fam. And I'm just going to make this super digestible real quick. So we are talking about this product called the Resistor. Ian Mitchell is on with me. He makes it through his company at Biocharged. So all the links are going to be right here in his bio. If you go to our pinned comment, it's the link in my bio. He has his own link there. So go and check this out. And essentially what this is this is charged up ozonated oil, supports your body on a cellular level by introducing ozonides. That's what we were just, talking about here, which causes a hormetic response to supercharge your body's mitochondria at a fast rate. Now, if you don't know what hormesis is, you need to go back and listen to a couple replays that I've had with Dr. David Sinclair, which breaks down what hormesis is. You guys got to do your homework. And so then what it does is it's supporting us. It's supporting cellular regeneration, detoxification. It promotes gut health, and it basically helps balance that gut flora. So it helps with weight management. It helps with candida, as I was saying, helps with so many incredible things. And we have a million questions on here. I will get to them. I'm scrolling back and forth. I just want to give Ian a chance to talk, and I want to give people who hopped on in the last couple minutes an idea of what we're talking about here. So this is what you're looking for. Good for detoxing and gut health. And Ian, can we throw out a couple other conditions? Obviously, like gut health affects brain health, affects hormonal health, affects immune health. You know, can we talk autoimmune? Can we talk things other than candida? Like safely talk. And again, the disclaimer is these are just all our opinions. They're not suggestions. They're not prescriptions. That's the disclaimer. None of this is medical information. You take it as you will. You can always consult with your own healthcare practitioner. This is just us sharing information that we think is helpful and has been helpful for us, for our communities, our clients, and our patients. So just a disclaimer on that. But so you mentioned candida. What else?
So I think the thing to stress here, because I just saw one of the questions about good gut bacteria, right? So you don't take something that's going to damage your good intestinal flora. Now, there's your body in its infinite wisdom kind of bases things in terms of good or bad, a lot of times based on the charging that it has. This is actually adapted to a specific charge. But even more so than that, really what happens is it's in a delayed release capsule, so it actually goes all the way down. Generally speaking, unless you take it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, it's going to actually find its way so that it gets down closer to your small intestine. And that is, it's not ozone, right? Ozone stripped away. What it's doing is it's releasing ozonides, and so that sets up a biological cascade with signaling molecules. Because really, actually, it's very kind of like an allopathic sort of thing to say, we're going to put this stuff in and it's going to interact a specific way. I personally, my sort of philosophy is that's not the best approach. The best approach is provide your body with the tools it needs, amp up its production, and allow it to do what it needs to do. And across the board, everything that I play with, tinker with, develop, design, look at that I think really has merit just does that. It enhances your biology so that your body is fixing itself, because and it's the most amazingly brilliant dynamic system. And anybody who looks at it form and doesn't go, holy cow, you're paying attention, because it's truly miraculous in the most literal sense. It's unbelievable. Complex.
I mean, we are the most complex system. I talk about this quite often. You know, we're so mesmerized by iPhones and devices and technology, and not to say that those things aren't incredible, but if we look at our human body, we are the most complex, amazing, unbelievable machine, if we're going to use the word machine, system. And there's so much more to us that we have yet to even really learn and discover. So we are our own healing systems, and sometimes we just need to give our bodies the tools. So I know it sounds like we talk a lot about supplements here, but if you really think and listen to what Ian is saying, and if you go back and listen to our first two episodes, the two replays, he really breaks down what he's doing with these oils. And so he's using natural products and supercharging them. And he kind of breaks down the process of what he's doing and why, so that you can understand what ozonides are, for example.
One of the things that I think is important for people to realize is that the supplementation thing, right? The reason I'm really is there's a lot of difficulty with the FDA just in terms of it's such a behemoth, and the average cost of getting a drug to market is over $1.125 billion with a B dollars. And basically what that means, if you're actually focusing on it, is guys like myself who will go out and crack a puzzle and figure out something that's of benefit. There's no way for us to get through, $1.125 billion worth of expenditure. So the way the market's is big companies have, for the most part, kind of knocked out their own R&D departments, and they come to guys and they buy up ideas and they buy up products. And a lot of times they will just put them on a shelf, and they compete with something that's out there, and they don't want to have to go through the expenditure of re-educating everybody. Right. Truly, supplements, I think, allows people who are ethically minded about trying to get something out that's really going to help people. It's the only way you can really do it. If I but I really want to make a dent and help people. And at end, I keep releasing things. It's not like I'm actually churning out a ton of products. I mean, I'm working on, the things I'm working on, but I'm working on gamma shielding, radiation.
So many things.
Yeah.
And truly, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to remind my community who have been here, and some of them are from your communities as well. Like, the mission here is to serve. The mission here is to serve you guys and to give you the tools that you can serve your own communities, your families, yourselves. And so these are they're just tools. They're tools and resources that you can add to your toolbox. Whether it's a book or the supplement, that's what we're here to do. And everything that I talk about here is something that I use, that I feel really strongly about, but it's something that I share with my family, beyond, my community for sure, but like my family. So I, I already love and adore you, but I just appreciate everything that you do so much, because you're helping so many people, and hopefully even more, because your products truly transform lives. So sorry, I had to gush about him for a second. And then it's okay. There's so many Q&As that I feel like are really important and relevant. I'm going to take the time to go back and look and just kind of throw some things out to you. But one of the big things is, can you take this? And for those of you who just jumped down, we're talking about Resistor, which is a product at biocharged.co. You'll find all the links in both of our bios, and it'll be available in the replay. Can you take this with your other supplements? And are there things that you don't need to take with it, like maybe that you would drop, because this maybe covers more bases than you realize? So you can, maybe take a few other things out of your protocol.
Yeah, you can take it with the other products. So the way I actually do that is I stage it time-wise, because what you're trying to do, say the Carbon 60 products, they actually go in and wedge in your mitochondria, and they buffer the internal part of your mitochondria, the inner mitochondrial membrane, against oxidative stress. They upregulate. Now, what I like to take the Resistor first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, because it gets the biggest impact. Then about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'll take the C60 products. And the reason your body starts to upregulate its own mitochondrial production, it starts gearing up. And the other critical part there is you always want to cycle things on and off. You don't want to take these every single day without fail. I saw Jared on here, and I know he takes it. And there's...
Can we talk about that real quick, since you're talking about cycling? Like, when you talk about cycling, do you mean, take it for 3 weeks, go off 1 week? Do you mean take it 4 days out of a week? Do you mean take it every... Because, that... It's really hard for people to kind of and I know it's for everybody's different. So the cycling will kind of vary from person to person, but just in general, what do you recommend?
Resistor is a longer cycle time. It's more of a take it for a month, pause for a week, take it for 3 weeks, pause for a week, take it for a month. It's more of a daily thing. The Carbon 60, those products are really intense in terms of the way they affect your mitochondria, and it builds up. And you never want to take something that's going to knock out your body's own endogenous production. So they stimulate your body to upregulate its production of antioxidants. C60, because it's such a powerful antioxidant in its own right, your body realizes that the homeostatic balance is shifting in its favor, so it downregulates its production. So that's why I tell people with those, do it for 3 days, take a day off. Do it for a week, take a week off. It's something athletic and you're going for a specific thing, or you've got some cognitive deficit in the case of Neural RX. Suck like it's going out of style. Just in general, for maintenance, cycle that. And cycle this with less rapidity than you would the other. The other should be a rapid cycle.
Okay, so this upregulates our own internal system. Okay, so take a week off after like a month. Okay, and then there's other two products, the Neuro X and the Olympic. And I know it's a little confusing because this is on biocharge.co and the other ones are on Wither Sciences, but we will have all the links on our trusted resources and in our link in bio. Those you're going to be a little bit more careful with or not careful, just mindful. You might take it for 3 days and then go off for a few days. And because that downregulates a little bit. So not a little bit, but that's what it does. Correct? Okay, cool.
That is exactly correct. I was looking at the question about fur babies. Yeah. The carbon products are great. In fact, that's what we'll be speaking about next week regarding fur. But this isn't, this isn't something that I would recommend for pups or kittens. It's not really terribly applicable. Also, trying to get them to ingest it would be a fool's errand because the smell and the taste are a little intense.
Mm-hmm. But what I will say is, and this is encouraging you to follow Ian and his accounts and put notifications on and sign up in the link in bio, is that we are going to be talking about a pet elixir in the future when it comes. For all of you fur baby mamas and papas and aunties and uncles out there, there is a pet elixir coming, and we will be talking about that when it comes. So just a little note on that. There was a great question about hyperthyroidism. So, is this something that can help with that? I mean, people have put up specific questions. I'm just trying to cover questions.
Or hypo. So if it's hyperthyroidism, no, it's not really going to help with it. Hypothyroidism, it would have an impact. For hypothyroidism, you'd probably be better off looking at some of the carbon products instead of the ozonated products, because it just upregulates things in a slightly different fashion. And I just saw a question about, should you take activated charcoal with it? 100% yes, take a binder, because when it goes in, a lot of times you get a die-off reaction of things, and you want to have enough binders in your system so that when something gets cleaned out, it binds to the toxins and shuttles it out of your system. So there are plenty of good products out there. There's a ultimate binder from Quicksilver Scientific that's really good. Just straight up activated charcoal is really good. Probably the best thing, which we'll be looking at shortly, is like Shilajit and a couple of other things, zeolites.
Those are great too.
Yeah.
Well, let's get clear, because I see repeat questions and some are coming in via my text as well. And it's okay. So you said to take this in the morning, so you're taking it in the morning, you want to bind it with charcoal or something like that. Then you've got to wait 20 or 30 minutes to do your Neuro and Olympic. Right. What about your other supplements? When do you take those? Or some of those supplements say first thing in the morning, some of them say empty stomach. At what point can we pair any of like regular supplements? Let's say someone's just doing vitamin C and zinc and zinc and D, or and of course there's senolytics and there's all kinds of things. So when would someone take those, before, in between, like where? So
with the Olympic and the neural, I don't really worry about those timelines unless you've got some very specific thing that you're doing, or you're trying to hit some, set target neurally where you're trying to upregulate your mental performance. I don't think it's a big deal if you take that with food, take it at night, take it in the morning. You'll biggest pop if you take it in the morning on an empty stomach. It really ramps things up and you feel it. But not necessary, because the goal there is to get all those components like the NMN, erythritol, the P2.
Get it into your system.
Get it into your system, elevate your baseline. This product, because it has a really distinct impact on your gut, if your gut isn't balanced, it serves to regulate intestinal flora and get your levels back. So that I would always say, just take on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. You don't wait more than 20 or 30 minutes. You can pop that, and then normal vitamins like C, D, E, zinc, A, all that kind of stuff. I take those right after. Wait 20, 30 minutes and then pop those. Again, it's more of a specific thing. If your gut is perfectly balanced, then you probably don't need this. That's the thing.
And that's a really good note. It's like, these are general, again, I'm aware of using the word recommendations or suggestions, but these are the things that we're talking about that have served us and the people that we work with. But each of you have your own separate disposition. So you take it in the way that it works best for you, knowing how it's designed to work for the body. There's questions about leaky gut. Yes, this will absolutely help with leaky gut and pretty any and all gut issues. Ian had talked about that maybe about 10 minutes ago. So if you missed it, definitely watch the replay, because he really breaks down how it helps the gut. So let's see, can kids take it?
Well, they're probably not going to really like it all that much. Can they take it? Yeah, it's just stabilized oil. Again, we always have to say, it's not medical advice. Ask your pediatrician, that sort of thing. But I've given it to my, especially if they have something wrong with their gut. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Like if they picked up a bug too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, small humans are still humans. There's a lot that changes in terms of their endocrine behavior, but they're still humans. And I literally would not be making something if I thought it was going to potentially damage someone. I would rather walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And again, you know, this came up in some of the questions that came through earlier when we had posted about the talk. You know, just detoxification side effects. Like, can that happen with this product? And the answer would be yes. And again, it depends on your body.
And that's why I always tell people, you can get, if you take too much of that in too short a timeline. My friend Luke Story did that. He thought it was another product, and he took a handful of caps.
No. It's one a day, Luke. One a day. One a day.
It was kind of a disastrous end. Yeah, it was less than pleasant. And I've taken it, developing it, I took effectively 3 times that quantity. Yeah, 2.5 to 3 times. And it was less than pleasant. That's why I one capsule, just one capsule. Take it with
just stick to what this says. It says one capsule. And you might experience some mild detoxification side effects, which you would detoxing with anything. That's just normal. That's the body letting go of that which you don't want. So consider it a blessing, even in its unpleasantness. But don't go more than what it says on the bottle. They run tests in the lab. They give you recommendations on the bottle for a reason, and I think it's always best to kind of follow that as a guide. Now, some people are asking about mold. Some people are asking about fungus, parasites, bacteria. Those are all great questions. Whether or not we still need to take probiotics, another great question. So can we address a few of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Molds and fungus, it's not going to impact you that much. There are far better things for molds and fungus. And that's actually, they're a surprisingly tricky thing to contend with. And they're just about everywhere too. So we actually literally been running mycotoxin tests on ochratoxin and aflatoxin for another project that we're working on. And those little guys are pretty insidious and difficult to get rid of and deal with. So I would recommend this for dealing with molds. Now, I've had people say, oh, I felt better and I have mycotoxicity and I took this and I felt better. I don't actually think it's directly because of this product, because I really don't think this is totally applicable to that. I think what's going on there is they were running at a mitochondrial deficit, and their energetics up made the difference. So they ascribed it to that, but I think it's actually a faulty ascription. I think that's, correlation and not causation. It's just a different function.
Someone says I use this product straight on my face instead of a moisturizer. Okay, let's talk about that, because you did say about skin contact. You address the gut, and then obviously you address the skin. That's a part of our microbiome. Our skin is our largest organ, and that's a big part of our whole system microbiome. So I thought that was a great. Is that not a? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, but that was a great comment. Thank you. So let's address that.
Yeah, it's fantastic topically. I mean, it really is good. You've got scratches, scrapes, cuts, rashes, diaper rash for kids. It is insanely efficacious for diaper rash in kids. Bizarre.
Okay. And then what about acne? I would say that's probably a super common question.
Not that common a question. I think it's just because of the demographic that actually looks at this. But yeah, it would be very, very beneficial just because of the way it would actually impact the bacteria and things that actually are problematic that stimulate, the outbreaks. And, you actually, because of its antimicrobial interaction, really, really beneficial impact on that.
Amazing. And then someone asked about eczema, which I would think, yes, both internally and externally, right? Because eczema is so commonly a gut issue, or that's where the base is.
It's actually really good for eczema, but I think I have a friend who had eczema, and I made a serum for her, and I gave her some of this to use on it, and it didn't work actually as well as the C8 product. that actually was flawless for eczema. It knocked it down. She actually wore high neck shirts and long sleeves and a problem. And then after a topical application of the C8, it went away. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And we haven't even fully dived into that. There's more products coming, you guys. We're just gonna keep doing this until we go through all of them. So you guys really understand how to use these products in the best way possible to really maximize the optimization of your healing and your health. Questions. SIBO, effective for SIBO and IMO. I think that we've already answered that question earlier, but I'll call it out.
For SIBO, yeah, the bacterial overgrowth, yes, 100% appropriate and applicable and beneficial. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So again, anything that, sorry, someone says name, Getty and Blair. So if you go to, I'm so sorry, this is the lighting. I'm in a hotel room. It's dark. So it says Resistor, and it's also gold and black. So there's a little bit of glare sometimes. And it's on biocharged.co. If you go to Ian's account, and I recommend everyone go and follow him and follow the companies that he's creating these incredible products for. You also go to Wizard Sciences for some of the other products we talked about. This is at biocharged.co. It's called Resistor. If you go to the link in my bio, I will have shortcut links to Ian's companies and to these products. And it'll also be on, if it already isn't, actually it already is. It's on our Trusted Resources group of products that I recommend, and also on my website. Oh, so there's an angle. Can you read it now? That might be better. Resistor. Okay. So, would you take a bottle of the Resistor around to have the Resistor to buy less food that might make your gut unhappy? Well, that's a little bit more mindset. We can definitely address that as well. Great questions. Let's see. Let me keep going. Post the site. Can you please post the cycling? Oh, yes. Okay. So the cycling, it was, that'll be in our show notes for this, just about how you cycle the product. This would be, 3 or 4 weeks on, 1 week off. And then for the other products, they would be different. We can add that in the show notes so it's not to be too confusing. But with the Neuro and the Olympic, that's at the products from Wizard Sciences, it's slightly different cycling.
Yeah, so. And he's really curious. Just hit me up and DM me, and either myself or my team will get back to you.
Yeah, and that's another reason why you've got to go follow Ian and Wizard Sciences. And Biocharged has its own. Doesn't it have its own Instagram account too? If not, hit up Ian. So, but all of it. Go follow all of them, and then you're just going to get so many tools and so much info. And some people ask about medication. So there's a question here about antibiotics, but that actually came in, which I'm not sure if we can actually answer that question here. Maybe we can answer it in a theoretical way. If someone's on medication, whether it's antibiotic, antiviral, even something that might be a little bit more serious, like say someone's got cancer, or if they're on medication, prescription medication, can they take this?
They can. Yeah, it's on a case-by-case basis. I mean, like anything else, it interacts, right? If you use substance, there is an interaction. So you really should check it out, or hit me up and ask, or something like that, because it truly is. And a lot of people do that. They'll write into the website or hit me up on Instagram and inquire about their specific case. And I'm genuinely happy to help and provide advice where I can, and if it's something that's outside of the scope of my knowledge, I will be the first to tell you, because there is far more that is outside of the scope of my knowledge than
And it's so great. Well, first of all, he knows everything, so it's kind of a lie. But if you guys have questions, I really encourage you to send them in. Send them in advance. Put notifications on both of our accounts so that when we're coming on. We're doing a series. We're coming on just about every week. We're talking about different products. Or if you order the products, then, and you get a chance to kind of try them out, even if we're talking about a different product, in one particular week, we're happy to also, go back and answer a question about Neuro RX or Olympic RX, or, in the weeks to come on this as well. So I really encourage you to send in your questions in advance so we make sure that we can address them. Because sometimes a ton of questions come through and we don't necessarily get to all of them here. And then you also have a chance to experience the product. And then you might have questions that come from that experience as well. So I'm super excited about this. don't have everybody in my life taking this yet. Don't ask me why. But I will, because it's an incredible product. And I do think, based off of what we talked about, I think that it can actually help take some products off of like a supplement protocol because it covers so many things.
Yeah, things are great. I mean, if you're using Neosporin, that's going to be better, definitively. And, the test data will come out at some point when we put everything together, because it's a super natural product. It's really beneficial. That's why nature uses it. I think it's really like the way you approach things, the way I approach things is none of these are super standalone items. It's all just tools in a toolkit, right? I want you to have access to things. I make this stuff unless I needed it myself or had friends who needed it. Mm-hmm. And all these things, it's just another arrow in the quiver, another tool in the toolkit, whatever. Yeah. And they're not always applicable. So if this isn't applicable, I will truly be the first to tell you, that's not what you need. Use this. Yeah. Because there are tons of supplements and tons of medications that actually get to the root of what people are looking for. If it were 500 years ago and we lived in a perfectly pristine environment and took long walks outside and did manual labor all the time, whole different set of tools, right?
For sure. And we're talking about supplements here. We're obviously going to be talking about supplements tomorrow with Dr. David Sinclair, but there's also other tools that we talk about here quite often, like meditation. And I might drop in on that one of these episodes in our series once we're done with all of the supplements and products, because that's also a tool in your toolkit, which I talk about here quite often. So, we're literally just wanting you guys to have access to things that you might not normally have access to, knowledge and information that can really help you. And, the goal is that you not only use it to help yourself, but you use it to help your family, your friends, your community, share about these things. And yes, to answer the question from before, this is recorded. Replays will be up. They're always up. You can either go to the YouTube, and that would be my YouTube, Chef Serena Poon, or if you sign up for our list, you will get a link sent directly to you. I would say also, follow Ian and his accounts. Obviously, you're following our account. Put on post notifications and come back and check. If you don't see anything up because of the algorithms of Instagram, make sure you have post notifications and then come back and check the account and see, oh, look, they talked about something else, and go back and watch it, and you'll just learn a lot. So because we have an amazing human here who's not only doing things for humanity and our future, but just so willing to create space to share all that information with you guys. So thank you so much again.
I love you.
I love you more.
Super, super happy.
You're amazing.
Well, I miss you. Can't wait to see you.
I know. It can't come soon enough. You guys are going to meet up, and we're going to be creating some cool stuff in the lab over there for you guys. So definitely stay tuned. And let's see what other questions on here. There's just a lot of thank yous. The sexy wizard be a household name in decades. I love it. Well, I don't know. I think we might want to keep that in mind. I kind of like that. You might want to go to GoDaddy.com and get that domain. All right, you guys. We're already coming up to 350. We try to keep these manageable for our AV, for Mila, to edit everything and get it out there for you guys. So thank you so much for staying on here, for being so engaged, for loving this content and being super supportive. The best way to support is always to be here, engage, join, follow, and check out the products. So that's about it. We need Iron merch. I agree. We need Iron merch. That'd be amazing. All right, you guys. So be on tomorrow. I can't remember what time I'm on tomorrow, but if you check my Instagram account, you will see the post that tells what time I'm on tomorrow with Dr. David Sinclair. We're going to be going over some more supplements, and it'll be a Q&A following his podcast. So this is great. And Ian and I are going to be back on next week too. So stay tuned for when that happens. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.